Welcome back to Shadow Crime Stories, the podcast that is not afraid to look into the abyss. I'm your host, Roman.
And I'm Trish. Welcome to episode 3, everyone. All right, Roman, I've got one for you. What do you call a psychic little person who has escaped from prison?
Oh boy. Okay, I have no idea, Trish. What?
A small medium at large.
That is profoundly terrible. I love it. But speaking of things that are at large, today we are tackling one of the biggest, baddest boogeymen in the history of American true crime.
We really are. This is a case that has it all. A terrifying killer who craved the spotlight, cryptic puzzles sent to the press, and a mystery that has haunted investigators for over 50 years. Today, we're talking about the Zodiac Killer.
So Trish, to really get this, we have to set the scene. It's Northern California, the late 1960s. The summer of love has just happened in San Francisco. The air is thick with incense, revolution, and flower power.
Right, the hippie dream. But there was a darkness creeping in at the edges, right? Charles Manson and his followers were just around the corner. The optimism was starting to feel fragile.
Exactly. And into that fragile scene, a real-life monster walks. It all starts on December 20th, 1968, just before Christmas. Two high school kids, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, are on their very first date.
Oh, the innocence first date. They drive out to a well-known lover's lane on Lake Herman Road, just outside Vallejo, and what should have been a sweet, nervous night turns into an absolute nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Another car pulls up, a man gets out, and for no reason anyone can ever determine, just executes them. He shoots David in the head and Betty Lou 5 times as she tries to run. No robbery, no assault, just murder.
It's horrifying. The police are completely lost. But then, about 7 months later, on the 4th of July, 1969, it happens again.
Yep, another couple, Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau, are parked at Blue Rock Springs, just a few miles away. The exact same MO. A car pulls up, a man gets out, shines a flashlight in their eyes to blind them, and opens fire.
Darlene is killed, but Michael, despite being shot in the face and chest, miraculously survives. He becomes the first person who can give a description of the attacker. And this is when the killer decides he wants credit.
He doesn't just want credit, he wants fame. Less than an hour after the shooting, he calls the Vallejo Police Department from a payphone. The call is chillingly calm.
He says, "I wish to report a double murder. I also killed those kids last year." He's connecting the dots for them. He's starting his own legend.
And then he takes it to a whole new level. A few weeks later, he sends handwritten letters to 3 major newspapers, and inside each one is 1/3 of a cryptogram.
With a demand, publish the cipher or he'll go on a killing rampage. The sheer ego on this guy is just off the charts.
Totally. So Trish, let's be honest. How are your puzzle skills? If this letter landed on your desk, would you be cracking the code?
Roman, I can barely solve the Sunday crossword. I would be absolutely useless in this investigation. You?
Worse, I'd still be staring at the first symbol. But luckily for everyone, a high school teacher and his wife, Donald and Betty Hardin, saw it and basically said, "Hey, this looks like a fun puzzle." They cracked the first cipher, the Z408, in less than a day.
And the message they found gave us the first real peek into his twisted mind. It's full of misspellings, but it reads, "I like killing people because it is so much fun."
It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all. And then he says the best part is that when he dies, he will be reborn in paradise, and all the people he has killed will become his slaves.
Slaves for the afterlife. It's so bonkers. What does he think he's going to do? Make them fan him with palm fronds for eternity? It's this chilling mix of grandiose narcissism and just plain weirdness.
It is. And in his next letter, he gives himself a name. He signs it with a circle with a cross through it and writes, "This is a Zodiac speaking." And then he sends another, more complex cipher, the Z340. And this one, Trish, this one stumps everyone for 51 years.
51 years. And it wasn't the FBI or the CIA who finally cracked it, was it?
Not at all. It was cracked in 2020 by an international team of amateur code breakers who just collaborated online. A software engineer from Virginia, a Belgian computer programmer, and a mathematician from Australia. The internet finally beat the Zodiac.
That is amazing. But while the codebreakers were stumped, the Zodiac wasn't done. His next attack is, to me, the most visually terrifying of them all. Lake Berryessa.
Oh, the costume. You have this young couple, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, just having a nice picnic by the lake. And this figure walks out of the woods wearing a bizarre black executioner's hood.
And on his chest, he has this bib with the crosshair symbol stitched on it. It's like a real-life horror movie villain. He ties them both up and then just brutally stabs them over and over. Cecilia tragically dies, but Brian survives to describe the whole horrifying encounter.
Incredible that he survived. Then, just 2 weeks later, the Zodiac makes his move on the big city. He gets in a cab in San Francisco, driven by a man named Paul Stine.
And he has Stine drive to the wealthy Presidio Heights neighborhood, where he shoots him in the head. This is the moment the police came so agonizingly close to catching him.
So close. The lead SFPD inspector on the case was a guy named Dave Toshi. He was famous for his trench coat and unique way of wearing his gun, and he was actually the inspiration for Steve McQueen's character in Bullet and for Clint Eastwood in Dirty Harry.
Get out of here, really? So a real-life movie cop was chasing a real-life movie villain?
Pretty much. But even Dirty Harry couldn't catch him, partly because of a huge blunder. Some teenagers saw the attack and called 911, but the police dispatcher mistakenly broadcasted the suspect was a black man.
Ugh, that's the story. So the responding officers saw a white man walking away from the scene, but they were looking for a black suspect, so they just drove right past him. They literally passed the Zodiac Killer on the street. That is maddening.
And it created this huge jurisdictional nightmare. You had Vallejo PD, Napa Sheriff's Office, and SFPD all running their own separate investigations, and information wasn't shared effectively. And you have to think that slowed everything down and let them slip through the cracks. It's an unbelievable what if.
And you have to remember, this was before the internet, before computer databases. You had different police departments in different counties. Vallejo, Napa, SFPD, all running their own separate investigations and not always sharing information effectively. It created these gaps that the Zodiac just danced through.
And his taunts weren't just for the police. He started to single out journalists, didn't he? Specifically, Paul Avery at the Chronicle. He sure did. He sent Avery a Halloween card in 1970 with a skeleton on it and a message that read, "From your secret pal, Peekaboo, you are doomed." I mean, the sheer audacity to personally threaten a journalist covering you. It's chilling. He sent a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle threatening to shoot out the front tire of a school bus, and then he said he would pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out.
That sent absolute panic across the entire Bay Area. I mean, can you imagine? They had police cars escorting school buses. Kids were taught to hide under their seats. It was mass terror orchestrated by one man and his letters.
So the biggest question of all, who was he? The police had dozens of suspects, but one name always rises to the top: Arthur Lee Allen.
Right, and the circumstantial case against him is just a wild ride. A former friend reported that Allen had talked about hunting humans, wore a Zodiac brand watch with the crosshair symbol, and even used the name Zodiac before the killer did.
The list goes on. He lived near the first crime scene. He was a former school teacher who was fired right around the time the letter stopped. When police searched his trailer, they found weapons and bloody knives.
And what was his explanation for the knives?
He told them they were for killing chickens.
Of course. Just my chicken killing knives, officer. Nothing to see here. It all sounds so suspicious. On paper, he's the perfect suspect.
He is, but here's where it all falls apart, Trish. The hard evidence, the science, just isn't there. His fingerprints didn't match prints found at the Stine murder scene. Multiple handwriting experts said his writing didn't match the Zodiac's.
And the real nail in the coffin for the Allen theory, in the early 2000s, investigators managed to develop a partial DNA profile from saliva on the flap of one of the Zodiac's envelopes. It did not match Arthur Lee Allen's DNA.
It's the ultimate true crime frustration. You have this perfect suspect, this mountain of weird coincidences, but the physical evidence says, nope, not your guy.
And that's the thing with this case. For every suspect like Allen, there are half a dozen others with their own compelling, if less dramatic, sets of coincidences. You have guys like Lawrence Kane, a career criminal who worked near one of the victims and had training as a naval cryptographer.
The case just gets deeper and murkier the more you look. It's a rabbit hole of red herrings.
So you have this killer who loved the spotlight, who played this elaborate game with the police and the public, created this whole theatrical persona.
And then he just vanished. After a final rambling letter in 1974, the Zodiac went silent. The killer, with arguably the biggest ego in history, just disappeared. Did he die? Was he in prison? Or did he just get bored and stop playing?
And that's why this case is one of the all-time greats. It's an unfinished story. He left us with a puzzle that still has no solution, a shadow that still lingers over Northern California.
And on that mysterious, frustrating note, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Shadow Crime Stories.
We'll be back next time to explore another dark corner of history. Until then, stay curious.
And stay safe.